Hello, you are watching MMA Crypt Fighting Talk. The title for today's show will be Bad Boy Nate Diaz. We will also be discussing Ultimate Fighter 18 winners from last night. Okay, joining me to go 3 rounds today will be, as always, Mr. Brian Hunt, and debut appearances from Tommy Vors and Matt Wolfley. Give a big hello to our listeners. Start with you first, Brian.
Hello, guys.
Merc.
Yeah, what's up, guys? If you want to carry on looking at my shit, you can check me out on @hired_Merc at Twitter.
Matt.
Hey, everybody. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, guys, starting things out in round 1, and the title for today's show, Bad Boy Nate Diaz. Nate was victorious last night via round 1 TKO over Gray Maynard. The pair met twice before, but there was a feeling of underdog status for Nate Diaz leading into the fight last night. How impressed was you with Nate Diaz and his performance last night, Brian?
Extremely impressed. Getting Gray out there as quick as he did, that's impressive. He put his shots together. The shot that started was kind of a fluke, as it didn't look like the hardest shot, but the shots that finished him or almost finished him, they were impressive. It was a very, very good showing for Diaz. Typical for him to have a couple good showings, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Tommy, how did you rate Nate Diaz last night in his victory over Gray Maynard?
I'd give him a good solid 10 on that one. He looked really fucking good to me. I mean, I figured if it was standing, he would win. If it got to the ground, he would lose. So he did surprise me that he was able to take Maynard down himself. So, yeah, I was very impressed with him, but like Brian said, he usually has a couple good showings and then doesn't turn up for his next fight.
Well, what do you make of that judo throw there, Tommy? That was impressive, wasn't it?
That was pretty damn good, to be honest. I think I marked out like a little girl when that happened.
That was fucking 10 out of 10 shit, that. Matt, did Diaz impress you last night?
The fight impressed me. I'm gonna take a different route, and I'm gonna say that I actually I'm not gonna say Gray's done, but I actually think Gray's been kind of on the way out for the last couple of fights. I mean, and I'm also not gonna say that, TJ Grant didn't knock him out because he's been done for a long time, and Clay Guida didn't take him to a split decision because of that. I think Frankie Edgar took a lot out of Gray. A lot of years, if you will, and my honest to goodness thought when he came up to the ring was, wow, Gray looks way older than I remember him looking. Not bad, don't get me wrong. He looks more. I actually thought he looked more shredded than I think I've ever seen him. Huge for 155, but his face, like he just looked like he'd been, through way more wars than what his record insinuates. And so, I thought Nate did a great job of capitalizing on whatever it was that Gray didn't bring to the ring. And I think that Nate will do great going forward. I don't think that there was a fluke in the way he won. But I also think Gray's done, man. I think he's, I know I said I wouldn't say it, but I think that he's kind of, I don't think he's going to win too much anymore.
Well, I tend to agree with the Frank Edgar comment there. The last opponent to TKO Maynard received a title shot. That was obviously TJ Grant. Do you think Diaz is a legit threat to the lightweight title and Anthony Pettis, Brian?
Skills, yes. Skill-wise, he can beat anybody. Mentally, no. It's almost that whole camp. It just, that's not true. But at least the Diaz brothers, they won't put it together long enough to string the wins together. As bad as Rory McDonald looked in his last fight, and as good as Nate Diaz looked last night, I still say if the two fought again, different weight classes, but if the two fought again, I don't see the outcome being any different. I still think a high-level wrestler will do that to him, and he's not going to put it together long enough to get the title shot, or he's going to do something stupid mentally to not get the title shot. The UFC can't trust him, so it's why invest too much time into either Diaz when you're 9 times out of 10 you're going to be disappointed.
Tommy, do you think Diaz can make a run for the lightweight title and pose problems for Anthony Pettis?
No. I don't think he could at all, to be honest with you, because he's not there mentally, and I don't think his skill set is there either. if he fought Anthony Pettis, I feel like Pettis would just school him all day, defeat him practically everywhere. But then I'm extremely biased when it comes to Anthony Pettis. So,
Stylistically, though, Mick, do you think that he could mix it with him? Because obviously, I find that Diaz, he normally frails under the wrestling. Wrestling seems to be his kryptonite in a way. I feel like stylistically, Pettis will bring the striking, and Diaz has got the range. So.
Well, Nate just comes forward. He doesn't do anything else but come forward and just throws punches. With Pettis, he's always looking at angles. He's always mixing it up. So I think Pettis will be able to handle that and just counter him and probably knock him out, to be honest with you.
Matt, how do you see Diaz in terms of being a threat for the title?
I think his style is dangerous in a bad way to Pettis. I actually think that Pettis would capitalize on the lack of caution that Nate typically has. Last night, and I believe it was Florian that said it, last night he didn't throw heavy punches, he threw accurate punches, which are just, if not more dangerous than heavy punches. So I'm not going to say he doesn't have the ability to keep up with Pettis, but I could see Pettis, kind of capitalizing on his lack of caution when it comes to serious strikers.
Diaz had a few choice words on the mic last night, talking a little smack and a few bleep words in there. Fox Sports does air UFC content now, so maybe not the most sensible post-fight speeches. Do you think Nate Diaz post-fight comments held the UFC and Fox in a bad light, Brian?
I do. I absolutely do. It's a sport now. It's a business now. And that stuff's just not going to fly. It hurt Strikeforce in Nashville when that crap went down. And it's not going to help the UFC. The bad boy image is okay, but you got to have smart bad boys. Josh Koscheck made a career out of being the bad boy, but he's not an idiot. He's just, people hate him. People like the villain or love to hate the villain, but he's still not an idiot. He's not dropping F-bombs on national TV. And this is not amateur hour anymore. That's not a pay-per-view. It's on Fox. And they'll be held accountable for that. So it's a big deal. You can't be stupid. And I think that might be asking too much out of Nate Diaz and his brother, to be honest.
Well, there was no brawl in the cage, so got lucky there.
That is true.
Merck, do you think the comments from Nate Diaz last night make the UFC and Fox look bad?
Well, about the swearing, I've kind of sweared like 10 times, and we've only just started, so... But, I don't think it looks bad for UFC or Fox, to be honest with you, because Nate Diaz, I don't know, he comes across to me, like both Diaz bros, as like real fighters. They'll fight you anytime, anywhere. But I guess you could say it's the thug mentality as well. But I don't think necessarily that's a bad thing, as long as people aren't stupid and go out there and mimic them. But I don't think it's really a bad thing. I mean, I loved his post-fight speech, so...
Matt, what's your thoughts on it?
I actually thought it was kind of sad, to be honest. Knowing that I haven't done a lot of production as far as video is concerned, but and I don't know if the UK broadcast was the same, but Brian, you can tell me if you noticed that they definitely had at least one person, if not two or three, just trigger happy, ready to censor everything that he did and said. As a professional, I would never want to have the reputation of, get ready for this guy, there's most likely going to be things that we're going to have to censor, both that he'll do and say, with finger gestures and with vulgarity and with slurs and things of that nature. So, frankly, from a professional standpoint, it is sad, it is disappointing that somebody can't just decide to just be a professional at work and be however the hell they want at home, or wherever else they're not representing somebody beyond themselves. And I maybe I'm overestimating the viewpoint of the sport and the UFC as a whole, but I know how I would take it and I know how I would do it, and I don't think that I would act the same way that he does. Now, again, there's showmanship and yada yada yada, but I mean, they cut away from him at least 3 times after the fight worried that he would be doing middle fingers and different gestures, and then they bleeped out portions of his, his his post-fight interview that were reminiscent of previous interviews that he did. They obviously missed plenty of swear words, but it's just sad, I think.
Well, good points made from both sides there. Okay, before we leave round one, I'd like to get your thoughts quick on the stoppage between Diaz and Maynard. Start with you first, Brian.
Great stoppage. The guy wasn't intelligently defending himself. Yes, he was standing. And I'm one of the guys that wants a fight to go as long as possible. I always feel guys training too long for some idiot, trigger-happy ref to stop the fight. So, no, it was a perfect stoppage. Gray was hurt. He was hurt really bad. His only defense was the cage keeping him upright. So, great stoppage. Good job, Eves.
Yeah, exactly. He fell over afterwards. When the referee stopped it, he fell forwards. So, Merck, what did you make of the stoppage last night?
Yeah, I thought it was perfect. I think that was for me, that was a highlight to see a referee like that just stop the fight like he did, because it was the perfect stoppage to me. There was no way Maynard was going to carry on at all.
Matt, did you think it was a potential late stoppage?
Not at all. I actually, you never want to have any doubt that a fighter won the fight, but at the same time, you don't want that to mean that serious injury is required of the loser. And I think that Eves did a great job of identifying when Gray was in a bad situation or was about to be in a way worse situation than he was in, and he stopped the fight. Gray falling over helped to, I think, capitalize that decision, but we could all see it. It was obvious that Gray was pretty well out on his feet.
Okay, moving on to round two, and our first tough female winner, Juliana Pana. What did you make of Juliana's performance last night, Tommy?
I thought it was pretty damn good. It reminded me of her performance against Shayna Besler, who she basically just came out super aggressive, did what she wanted to do, and I was very impressed with her. But I don't know, I kind of knew she would do that. I knew she'd take it down, just get an easy win. As I don't know, the caliber of talent she was facing against, I don't think was that impressive to me.
Yeah, I tend to agree with her, Tommy. Brian?
I'm very impressed. She's got a skill set that's not going to be found in a lot of women with that great wrestling. I mean, I was very impressed. I agree with Tommy that I thought she would win, but I didn't. I thought she would have a harder time with that. She just really controlled it. Extreme. I was just as impressed with her as I was with Diaz.
Matt, what did you make of Juliana's performance last night?
I would say that I actually thought that it was going to go to a decision, to be honest. I figured that Giuliana would get neutralized in most of her attempts, and that I didn't really honestly think she could keep up with striking either. But as far as finishing fights, I'm always going to be impressed when anyone finishes a fight. So being able to finish her the way she did was fantastic. And I actually thought Juliana looked quite a bit smaller and still pretty well controlled the entire fight. I think Juliana may move to 125 when that becomes legitimized in the UFC, but as it stands right now, she's going to do fine at 135.
Mick, do you think Juliana has what it takes to make a big impact on the women's bantamweight division?
I'm 50-50 on this because she looked really good and she's looked really good in all of her fights. But the talent she's faced, like in the last two fights, haven't really been that great. I mean, Shayna Baszler is a top women's fighter, so that's a very good win on her record. But I don't know. I'm not very impressed with Juliana at all so far.
Yeah, I feel like Baszler, you could see she was more a technical striker and just more well-rounded. I think Juliana's heart and determination pulled her through that fight, to be honest with you. Otherwise, I personally think if they had a rematch, I think Baszler would defeat her. Same question for you there, Brian.
I think she can make a huge impact in the division because of what her skill set is. It reminds me of a Matt Hughes back in his heyday of where I'm one-dimensional, but I'm really damn good at this one dimension. And I don't think the women are going to be used to seeing somebody that can ground people as well as she has. Again, level of talent, It's a big question mark. It's honestly a big question mark with all of the division, to be honest. Minus maybe Rousey and Misha Tate. We don't know where a lot of these women are at, and at least I don't. They're getting better, but there's still a lot of evolving to do in women's MMA. So, but I think she has a skill set that can hurt a lot of women.
Well, Jake Shields and Damian Maia, they survived on grappling for many years against some of the best. Jake Shields, he's won numerous titles, Elite XC, Strikeforce, I believe. Matt, do you think Juliana can make waves in the women's bantamweight division?
When I consider who holds the top, I'm gonna say no. The top three in that division, whoever floats there, regardless of who they are, I don't think she'll break the top three ever, which is kind of why I got ahead of myself and said I think that she'll move to 125 when it becomes more substantiated. But her performance against Rakosi, I think, stated that she has no problem with bigger opponents, taller opponents, and heavier strikers. But I worry that she runs into someone kind of like Matt Hughes did, who's maybe even a little bit better at what her one dimension is, and she gets neutralized. So I don't see that coming anytime soon. But at the same time, I think she's better suited at 125.
Juliana had some choice words for UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion Ronda Rousey. I'll just read Juliana's comments out now. Whether Ronda has 1 penny or 10 million, the point I was trying to draw there is she has her nose in the air and acts like she's better than everyone else. She went on the show being like, I'm Team Real Mean versus Team Fake Nice. Well, if she was so real, why didn't she tell me that I didn't deserve to breathe the same air as Shayna Baszler does? Why didn't she tell me that to my face instead of saying it behind my back on camera? Seems like fair comments to me. Tommy, what did you make of Juliana's comments? I just read it to you.
I understand the whole why didn't she say it to her face thing. I mean, I get that, but the whole Ronda, what did you say? She looks down on people?
Yeah, pretty much. Whoever's below her. Those comments have been made by a lot of people, to be honest with you.
I don't know. I didn't see that on Tough really directly, like properly. But I don't know. That's probably true as well, to be honest with you.
I watched that episode. I think the comments were more like, she doesn't deserve to be in the same cage, really. Not breathe the same air. Obviously, Shayna had way more experience, so you can sort of see the validness in the comments there, really.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Julia just took it too personally. I mean, it's trash talk. That's all it is. It doesn't mean anything.
Brian, what do you make of Juliana's comments?
I thought they were fair, and I agree with when you guys are saying that the comments by Ronda were typical. I mean, it's what you do to hype up your fire. She doesn't deserve to be in the same cage with you, type of thing. It's a very typical thing. And are you talking down to somebody? Yes, but not directly. It's more indirectly, and it's more to get your fighter up. Now, I have my own issues with Ronda, and I believe a lot of what Pena said is valid. I mean, I agree with her, but maybe eventually they fight. If they fight, that means Pena's doing a pretty damn good job, and we'll see what happens.
I touched upon this a minute ago, Brian, before we got onto the show. Do you think Juliana's trying to talk her way into a potential fight down the road with Ronda Rousey?
No, she was asked a question. She simply answered the question. It's she could have said no comment, but no, she was asked a question. She answered the question. She was a good interview. She wasn't whining in the corner going, I got two hurt fighters I need to go check on. It was just a question and just an answer. That's all it was.
Matt, what did you make of Juliana's comments?
Well, I think that everybody's a promoter in the UFC, and I think everybody can do their part to promote the sport and things. So, like kind of what Brian said, she's asked a question, she answered the question. When I think about promoting, I've been in situations where I thought I was the elite in the group, and at no point did the thought ever cross my mind to ever even think that the other people in the group didn't deserve to breathe the same air as me. That's not something that has ever even, I don't know, that just has never entered my mind as a statement that I would make about myself. Not that I don't think enough of myself to say that, but I think the idea of Ronda's attitude was coached. I don't, however, think I think she had her own creative control in what she said, and that's all Ronda Rousey. She's been painted as a totally different person in other instances than she was on Tough, so now I'm kind of left scratching my head as to which type of person I think that she might be. But Juliana had no reason to not say what she did in terms of how Ronda was perceived on the show. Um, Obviously, this isn't really the question, but my thoughts on Ronda are going to align with the people she aligns with, which would include the Diaz brothers, and that didn't look so good either. So, I don't know. I probably would have said exactly the same thing, maybe worse. I don't know.
There was a few questions on the stoppage in this bout also. Tommy, do you think the fight should have been stopped a little sooner?
No. I think it was fine the way it was, to be honest. I mean, she was trying to defend, and when it comes to a fight like this, you don't really want to stop it too soon, because that's career making there. I mean, there's a lot at stake in that fight, so the referee obviously didn't want to stop it too soon, but you don't want to stop it too late as well, because the fighter's health. So I think it was a good stoppage, to be honest with you. She's taken a lot of shots. She wasn't entirely defend herself properly. Towards the end, I guess she did kind of, but I don't know. It's not enough.
Brian, did you think it went a little longer than it should have?
I had huge issues with the stoppage, huge issues, and I didn't think it should have been stopped. There's a timekeeper that knocks on the side of the cage with 10 seconds left. The ref should be smart enough to acknowledge, okay, there's 10 seconds left in the round. And she was in a bad position. She was in a very compromising position. She wasn't getting hit that much. There was a lot of punches being thrown, but she was covering up. There wasn't a whole lot of clean shots coming through. And did her eyes ever roll back in her head? Did she ever take one of those, ooh, ouch? There wasn't those big shots coming back and forth to really make me think she was taking a lot of damage. Was she losing? Absolutely. They don't stop fights because you're losing. They don't stop fights because you're in a compromised position. That's what tapping's for. So with 1 second left, I was disgusted with the stoppage. Absolutely disgusted. She wasn't hurt. She was not hurt. She was defending herself. Great? No, she wasn't doing a very good job of defending herself, but she was trying to defend herself. And there was only 1 second left. So I had huge issues with the stoppage.
For me, I think she was a little out of her depth on the ground, to be honest. I think she had no way out of it. Her only defence was putting her hands in front of her face. I think she took some pretty stiff shots, obviously not like knockout blows like you mentioned. Giuliana was very high up as well. It was like there was no way she was going to bunker off. She couldn't even turn over. For me, in those instances, if you're outclassed and you're taking shots, I think you should just tap, to be honest with you. I think there's too much pride. If you're going to tap from a rear naked choke, tap from strikes, you know what I mean? Obviously, there's, 1 second left in the round there, Brian?
1 second. 1 second. Yep. And maybe that is, I agree with you that there is, if it went for 10 minutes, I don't think anything changes. But it wasn't 10 minutes. There was 10 seconds left in the fight when you hear the tapping. And maybe that was her defense. Okay, I'll get it standing again. All the strikers look forward to the beginning of every round. So maybe that's what she's fighting for. Okay, I'll get it standing again at the end of the round because I'm screwed here. Now, I don't think anything changes. I think the same thing happens. I give 0% chance of the fight ending any other way. It just should not have ended with 1 second left in the round.
I totally agree with you. She should have had a chance to come out for round two. And obviously, the fight starts standing. You know what I mean? Juliana has to work a takedown. Could she have worked a takedown in round two? You never know. Matt, what did you make of the stoppage?
I can definitely see both sides. Initially, I was pretty fine with the stoppage, especially when Rakosi got up and, for you Star Trek fans, she looked like a Klingon, pretty much. So she did take a lot of damage. There were plenty of shots that got through. But my personal feeling is that fights shouldn't really get stopped unless there's any kind of brain or eye damage. Otherwise, or like a massively serious cut. But somebody getting punched in the face a bunch of times, but still trying to defend themselves intelligently. The fight should have gone to the bell as far as that's concerned. But she was taking some serious damage in that top mount. So that full mount. Excuse me. So, I mean, I can see both ways. I wouldn't necessarily say I was infuriated by it, and after reviewing it a little bit, I can totally see where being in a both standing position could have given Jessica the ability to maybe bring back round two, but I wouldn't necessarily say I didn't have a problem with it either. I apologize. I'm kind of in the middle of the road on it, but she took a lot of damage, but I don't think I would have stopped the fight with 1 second left for sure.
Well, it seems like we're all agreed upon we should let it go to round 2. Moving on to our third and final round. Men's bantamweight winner, Chris Holdsworth, finished Davy Grant via rear naked choke in round 2 last night. How did you rate Chris Holdsworth's performance last night, Matt?
I actually thought it was very impressive. I mean, to be honest, I had him picked going into the fight as far as who would win. Nothing against Davey, but honestly, I just saw Chris as a more complete fighter. Great performance as far as capitalizing on mistakes that were made. It was funny because my wife said that he had caught the high kick. He had caught Chris's high kick, but when you watch the replay, his eyes roll and his arm is coming up in momentum more than anything. So that was a hard high kick that he got on him. But as far as the overall performance, I think Chris is going to be an impressive kid in the division. But I think that night he clearly showed that he was the best guy in the house.
Same question for you there, Tommy.
Yeah, I was super impressed with Chris Holdsworth. Personally, I didn't even think that he had to go through the tough, in all honesty. Like, I thought he could have skipped the whole process and gone straight to the UFC. I believe he's that good. So, I mean, if he wasn't in a tough process, I feel like Grant would have won. So it was like a perfect final. So, yeah, I was super impressed with him. He did what I thought he would do, which was win impressively. So, yeah, I got high hopes for him.
Where do you see Chris in the bantamweight division? Do you think he can make an impact in the future there, Tommy?
I want to say yes, but I feel like I might be overhyping him just a little bit. So he's got a lot of stuff to work on. So I'd say he can get into the top 10 for sure, but I'm not sure if he can compete for a title anytime soon.
Brian, how did you rate Chris Holdsworth's performance last night?
I was very impressed. He did what he had to do. I don't think the fight was ever in question. Mark might be right. He didn't need to go through there, but he did. Now he's got a Harley out of it, so it's probably well worth the 6 or 8 weeks he had in the house. I mean, I'd go anywhere for 8 weeks to get a hog out of it, so it's a pretty easy decision on his part. He looked great. He absolutely looked really good. He's coming from a camp that is amazing. I thought they brought in Bang just as a striking person. Okay, he's going to head up the striking. It sounds like Bang's taken over that whole gym, and I love Bang Ludwig. I really love the guy, but I didn't think he was a head coach. Not. He's a striking coach in my eyes. Well, it sounds like he's just done an amazing job with those alpha males. So he's got great training partners, great coach now. He's legit.
Where do you see Chris in the bantamweight division in the future, Brian? Do you think he can make an impact?
I do. I do. Is he top 3? Not now. Can he be? Maybe. He's got a strong backing. He's got the tools and he's got the trainers to give him that. So, again, as what Mark said, is the level of competition. He's training with guys better than what he went through on the house. So it's not really fair to judge at this point, but we'll see. I mean, we talk the fights, they fight the fights. We'll see here soon enough.
Okay, guys, that's a wrap for today's show. To any listeners, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our channel's name is MMA Crypt. From me, Tommy, Brian, and Matt, thanks for watching.